Hey, Awana friends, Jared here, and just wanted to share a few deep white family secrets for racing Awana cars. We had our Awana Grand Prix last night, and the girls did pretty well. They both won first place in Cubbies, and Sparkies, and I had good times racing Awana cars with my dad probably 30 years ago, and this is one of my trophies that I won. Um, but my girls don't need to win every race, so I figured I'd share some of my tips and tricks that I do on my cars. There's not a lot to it, but if if it can help some of your guys' cars go faster, then here we go. Um, probably the most important thing when you're racing these cars is to get them up to the 5 ounces of weight. Um, you they need to be at 5 ounces or as close as possible to 5 ounces. There's a lot of different ways to get it up to weight. The way I like to do it is I drill holes in the bottom of the car, and then I melt lead weight into them. Be careful, you don't want to give yourself lead poisoning, but and that works pretty good, and you can kind of distribute the weight. You know, a lot of times if you get a thinner car, you don't have a lot of room to put your weight, so that's why you kind of got to fill it full of lead in the bottom. You can use fishing weights, or you can use, some people will stick those mag wheel weights on there, or nuts and bolts. You can see on Alice's car it was a little light in the front, so I just put a couple screws in there to get it up to 5 ounces. But you want to make sure your car is at 5 ounces. You want to have a decent scale and get it up to 5 ounces. And then moving on here, one other thing I like to do is I like to kind of cut, or you know, I like to have a bit of a ramp up here on the front and on the back, just to give it a little bit better angle of attack. Basically, because on some of the tracks, depending on how your track is built, sometimes the transition from coming down the ramp to level can be pretty abrupt. And if you just leave the bottom of your car flat, a lot of times they'll drag on the track, and that'll really slow you down. And you don't want that. So I basically like to just ramp this up a little bit here on the front, and then on this car there was short on the back, so there wasn't much there, but I still kind of grounded up, if you can see right there, just to kind of give it so that if the track comes down and it flattens out real quick, that curve won't stop your car. The other thing I like to do is I like to glue in my axles. If your rules allow it, some churches may allow you to re-drill the axle holes, and if you have a drill press, then you can do that, and then you can really get a nice solid axle in there. If the rules require you to use these slots, then you want to make sure your axles are in there tight, because when they're during the race, if they're running multiple heats and stuff like that, it can be hard on your axles. And so I like to just use a little super glue, get some accelerator, and just make sure your axles aren't going anywhere. You really want to make sure you don't get any glue on your axle shafts, because that is really bad. And then speaking of wheels, you want to make sure that you just smooth down the insides of your wheels. When they're molded, sometimes there'll be little pieces of plastic that kind of stick out, and you want the inside of your wheel to be real smooth, so that when it's going down the track, it's not slowing you down as it rubs on the side of the track. You're not allowed to modify the wheels or shave them down or do anything crazy, but you can take a razor blade and just make sure that they're nice and smooth. And as far as alignment goes, I generally just try to have my wheels pointing straight ahead, as flat as possible, and just make sure your car rolls nice and straight and goes straight. There's different theories on, having your car turn a little bit to one direction, which I've never really done that, but I think the idea is that it will hold the car up against the side of the track and keep it from kind of banging back and forth. But I generally just set mine up to go straight, and it seems to work pretty well. I try to get it to sit on all four wheels too. There's theories out there where you could hang one of your back wheels up, but I don't know. It's hard to do. I try to just get them to line up as best as I can. And I think according to most rules, you're not really supposed to have one wheel off the track. Let's see. And then lubrication. My secret lubricant is silicone spray. You just buy it in a can at a hardware store, grocery, or a auto parts store. It's lightweight, it smells nice, it doesn't really make a mess, and it really works well. I think there's a lot of different lubricants that you can use that probably work well too, but I think you want something kind of lightweight, and you don't want it to get all over your car, and most rules state that your car can't really drip, so you don't want to get too crazy. But I like the silicone spray. Let's see what else. As far as the balance of your car when you're going to weight it, there's different theories about maybe moving the center of gravity back a little bit. I try to just get them to balance even. We saw in one of Jesse's cars last night, it was real light in the front, and it tended to wander a little bit going down the track. So I think just try to get your weights as even as you can. If you do use the melted lead method, sometimes you need to put a little glue in there to keep your weights from falling out, because you don't want those to fall out halfway through your race and have your car get light on you. And then finally, you might want to think about aerodynamics. There were some fast cars at the race last night that were a little faster than my cars, and they were just streamlined, just really thin cars, very highly aerodynamic, and they were a little bit faster. So if you end up in a really close race with another car, and you just are racing a block of wood, aerodynamics might come into play. The cars aren't going that fast, but they are clipping along at the bottom, so it's just something else to think about. The thing about real thin cars, though, then it becomes hard to get your weight in there. So think about how you're going to get your cars up to weight, and if you're just going to try and drive screws or bolts in the side of them, then maybe you want to do a thicker car where there's some room to kind of drive your weights in. You can run bolts into the side. That's kind of an easy way to get them up to weight. But what I like to do too is when you're doing your weight is to kind of put your car on a scale with the wheels kind of before it's all the way built, and just see what you're gonna have to do to get it up to 5 ounces. That way you don't have your finished car and then you're like, it's too light, and then you're screwing up your paint job or something like that trying to get your car up to weight. So anyways, those are just a few of the things that I've done to make my cars, and I've had a few fast cars over the years. You can't win every race, but it's fun to have a car that goes fast, and your kids are definitely happy about it. But it's like, I'll see you guys at the next race. So long.